Sometime in the past, people were conducting experiments on some small islands near France, completely disregarding the animals living there. The military eventually decided to test their nuclear bombs in the ocean, which caused a massive explosion. The radiation changed the genetics of the reptiles inside the nearby islands. Many years later, a Japanese fishing boat inside the ocean is planning to go home as they finished catching all the fish for their trip. Before they can make it back to land, they realize that something is wrong. The radar begins showing that something gigantic is coming their way. The fishermen sound the alarms immediately. All the workers rush to the navigation room to evade the object. However, the boat is suddenly hit by the massive creature. It easily rips apart the walls of the boat. Soon the monster sinks the entire ship, knocking its victims away with its massive tail. In the next scene, we see a biologist whose name is Nick heading towards a radioactive zone. He plans to study how the radiation has affected the creatures nearby. He gets out of his vehicle and uses some electric rods to force worms onto the surface of the ground. However, before he can collect his samples, he notices that something is wrong. He sees a bunch of soldiers rushing towards him. It is revealed that the military is here to enlist Nick for help, as they need him to examine something that has happened recently. Nick is taken to an airplane and flown towards an island close to the Pacific. He arrives and is taken to the nearby shore. There he is greeted by the General of the United States military, who brings him where the soldiers have set up a perimeter on the ground. Nick sees that the soldiers have massive footprints nearby. The footprints could not have been made by any known species on Earth. What is even more intriguing is that the giant footprints have a lot of radiation residue. This means that the creature that made them has to be radioactive as well. Luckily, the soldiers were able to find a survivor from the Japanese fishing vessel. He was able to survive the creature's attack. But the man has been driven insane and only replies that the creature is called Godzilla. Everyone gets into the military's cars and drives towards the massive Japanese fishing vessel that's stranded on shore. As they get out of their vehicles, they are stunned by what they see and how the ship has been destroyed. What no one realizes is that the monster has set its eyes upon even more fishing vessels. 3 American ships are trapped in the ocean. Before anyone can figure out how to free themselves, the ships begin to be pulled into the water. The fishermen try desperately to cut away the ropes. This proves fruitless as the ships begin to sink very quickly towards the ocean floor. All the sailors drown. The American military receives news of this incident. They realize that they are in big trouble, as it happened right outside New York City. The team speculates that it must be a prehistoric dinosaur that never went extinct, but Nick thinks that the creature is a new species that was created by mankind's nuclear experiments. We now see an old man fishing on the shores of New York City. He manages to catch something big, and his fishing rod is pulled towards the water. What he didn't expect was for his fish to be a gigantic creature. It begins rushing towards the old man and destroying everything in the way. The monster eventually makes it onto the shores. This causes chaos on the roads as everyone panics. It starts crushing everything beneath its massive feet. People are running all over the place, desperately trying to get away. Godzilla grabs a construction vehicle. It lifts the machine into the air and crushes everything with its mouth. While this is happening, the mayor of the city is giving a speech to his supporters. He is promising the people a better future, not realizing that everyone is in terrible danger. Soon the ground begins to shake. People are confused by what's going on. When they see the giant monster heading towards them, they start running for their lives. Godzilla eventually makes it into the town center. It destroys all the buildings in its path. A journalist called Victor sees an opportunity to make a name for himself. He starts chasing after Godzilla with his camera. He's running against the crowds, leaping over cars, until he is finally right in front of the massive creature. He seizes his moment and starts filming Godzilla as the creature goes on its rampage. As Godzilla walks, he barely misses the journalist before eventually walking away. Victor rethinks his entire life at that moment. After the attack on the city, the military arrives alongside the scientists. They try to figure out what they can do to stop Godzilla. The citizens are panicking and desperately trying to get out of the city. The mayor arrives at the town center. He tries to assure his supporters that everything is under control. He doesn't know that a mysterious man named Roach has secretly placed a bug on his shirt. It is revealed that Roach is a secret agent working for the French government who is trying to spy on the Americans' operation to deal with Godzilla. However, the US government has no idea what to do. They have lost track of the monster in the city. Luckily, the soldiers are eventually able to find Godzilla. They quickly rush towards the subway station and arrive inside the lower floor, where they see that a huge tunnel has been dug out. The plan is now to follow the monster into the hole, which is a dumb plan. Nick is luckily able to come up with a much better plan. The military starts setting up a perimeter outside in the streets. Numerous trucks then come in and dump lots of fish on the ground. Nick's plan is to lure Godzilla to the opening so the military can kill it. Soon they start to feel vibrations on the ground. The manhole explodes violently from underneath before Godzilla starts coming out from underground. Nick is amazed by the monster's tremendous size. Godzilla approaches closer to him and roars at him. Surprisingly, the creature decides to leave him alone and head towards the food. The peace is broken when the military general tells the soldiers to fire immediately. A lot of ammo is shot at the creature. To their surprise, Godzilla manages to dodge the rocket launchers, which blow up a whole building behind the creature. Godzilla runs away from the area, smashing all the tanks at the same time. The explosions blast the soldiers away. The military now sends their helicopters after the monster. There is a brief chase through the skyscrapers before the choppers manage to lock onto Godzilla. They fire their missiles toward it, but once again they miss, this time hitting the Chrysler building, completely destroying it. With no other choice, the choppers begin shooting their miniguns at the giant creature while chasing it through numerous buildings. They eventually end up losing sight of it in the pursuit. Luckily, they manage to find a giant hole in a skyscraper. They can hear that the creature is on the other side, so they begin firing everything they've got toward the sound, causing massive explosions in the process. The soldiers think they have won, so they start to celebrate their victory. But Godzilla jumps out from behind them, destroying almost the entire team in a single move. Only one survivor is left, desperately trying to run for his life. He thinks he has managed to shake off Godzilla, only to be ambushed from underneath by the monster instead. It soon hits the military heads that they have lost all their soldiers. They have no choice but to give up for now. Godzilla climbs up a building and roars in victory. Despite losing the battle against the massive enemy, Nick is able to retrieve important genetic materials from the kaiju. He plans to figure out why the monster is here. He runs towards a pharmacy to purchase the things he needs for his tests. He is surprised to see his ex-girlfriend Audrey, who's apparently now working as a reporter. Despite Nick still being a little upset about their breakup, he forgives Audrey and shows her his lab. He tells her he plans on figuring out the creature's reason for coming to the city. To his surprise, the hormonal tests he's run show that Godzilla is pregnant. This explains why the creature requires so much food, and why it has been digging tunnels underground to make room for its babies. Nick realizes that Godzilla will reproduce soon. He decides to report his findings to the government. Left alone in the lab, Audrey begins looking through all the secret documents and stealing them for her own selfish reasons. The military is now planning another trap for Godzilla. However, Nick tells them that they have a more urgent problem to deal with. He tells them that Godzilla is planning to give birth to hundreds of little Godzillas soon, which can prove to be disastrous for the entire human race. He suggests that they should instead look for the monster's nest and destroy all the eggs before they hatch. However, before he can finish explaining his plan, they are interrupted by a news report on TV where classified information about the monster has apparently been leaked by Nick himself. The military blames Nick for betraying their trust and kicks him off the team. What they don't realize, however, is that Roach has been secretly watching them and has his own plans for using Nick. Nick is forced to leave the government's base. He calls a taxi to the airport, but runs into Audrey again. He expresses how disappointed he feels about her betrayal before getting into the car and leaving the guilty Audrey behind. As he is riding in the taxi, he realizes that something is wrong. The taxi is taking him away from his destination. Nick tells the driver to stop immediately, but it turns out that Roach was the one driving the whole time. He tells Nick that he's secretly working for the French government. He then takes Nick to his secret base, where a group of soldiers are preparing their weapons as they plan on going to destroy the monster's nest. However, they need Nick to join them to ensure the mission's success. Nick agrees to help them right away, as this is the only way to prevent humanity from being destroyed. Meanwhile, Audrey is crying in bed because she feels guilty for betraying Nick. To her surprise, her friend Victor tells her to stop feeling sorry for herself. He suggests that she should amend her wrongs with action, and the best way to do it is to destroy Godzilla's nest as soon as possible. The two head towards the subway station and break into the building. They head deeper into the basement and eventually make it to the tunnel. At the same time, Nick is dressed up as a soldier, and alongside the French agents, they fool the American soldiers with Nick's perfect American accent. They are allowed to pass through the restricted area. What they don't realize is the military has already set up another trap for Godzilla. They were hoping to capture it on their second try. After making it into the tunnels, they begin to feel vibrations all over the place. They watch in horror as Godzilla crashes through the nearby walls, rushing directly towards them. The soldiers fall back immediately. The reporters see the monster as well and run the other way. Victor continues filming Godzilla, and again he barely escapes being crushed in the last moment. It is revealed that Godzilla is actually rushing away from the tunnel and heading straight towards the military's trap. This conveniently allows the team to continue towards the monster's nest. On the other side, the soldiers have spotted Godzilla moving on the streets. They wait patiently for the monster to approach the bait so they can ambush it. As Godzilla moves closer to the park, it notices the humans on the ground and remembers what happened the last time it was in this situation. It changes its mind. Seeing that Godzilla is not falling for the trap, the soldiers start to fire immediately. Godzilla starts to run the other way. It sprints through the massive buildings as numerous choppers begin to swarm out with guns blazing. They are all trying to take it down at the same time. Godzilla now starts running towards the ocean while being shot at. This forces the creature to leap through the air and dive into the water. But the battle is not over yet. The soldiers have many ships stationed in the ocean in anticipation of the monster. The Navy manages to lock onto the giant creature and fires its torpedoes towards Godzilla. But the monster is able to evade the attacks continuously, no matter how many times the soldiers fire. Things become even worse when the sailors realize that Godzilla is heading directly towards their ship, while the torpedoes are following closely behind it. They try to escape, but it's too late. Godzilla crashes onto the vessels from below, and the bombs completely destroy whatever is left. The battle is not over yet. Godzilla starts swimming back towards the island with the other ships chasing it from the rear. The soldiers see this and fire their torpedoes once again. The massive creature is desperately trying to dig onto the land, but is eventually hit by the bombs from behind, causing a huge explosion. Everyone starts to celebrate, thinking they have killed the monster, as Godzilla slowly sinks towards the ocean floor. Meanwhile, Nick continues venturing through the tunnels with his team. They eventually reach the monster's nest, where they see hundreds of giant eggs on the floor. They realize that they have to destroy the baby Godzilla immediately before they can hatch. Unfortunately, the soldiers did not bring enough bombs for the job. Before they can figure out what to do next, some of the eggs start shaking. Soon, a baby monster hatches, causing all the other eggs to start vibrating as well. The team is now in serious trouble as they watch hundreds of eggs hatching and devouring the food on the ground at the same time. They run away from the area immediately as the baby monsters start chasing them. Nick is able to escape from the vicious animals alongside his friend, but the other soldiers are not so lucky. They die horrifically in the hands of the baby Godzillas. Roach realizes that they have to keep the hatchlings inside. He tells Nick to call the military to blow up the entire building. Unfortunately, their phones are not receiving any signal, and the payphones have also been jammed. Just when they are running out of ideas, they are interrupted by the reporters, who drop down from the air ducts. Nick is shocked that his ex-girlfriend has been following them. However, she claims that she knows how they can contact the military. But before she can finish talking, they notice that the baby monsters are closing in on them, so they run away immediately. They eventually make it onto the second floor. As they rush inside the broadcasting room, Victor turns on the cameras and Audrey goes live on the news. Everyone outside notices the report on TV. Nick shows them where the numerous hatchlings are located and pleads with the military to bomb the building immediately. The general hears this and orders his planes to bombard the creatures right away. Roach realizes they have to leave immediately if they want to make it out alive. The group eventually climbs down from the second floor and sprints down the hallway while trying to evade the countless monsters chasing behind them. When they finally reach the front entrance, they notice that the lobby is filled by the baby Godzillas, blocking their only way out. Realizing that they are running out of time, Roach decides to improvise by shooting down the chandeliers on the ceiling and using the dropping objects to clear a way for them to escape. They eventually manage to make it out of the building while locking the creatures inside. Fighter jets soon fly into the area and launch rockets at the structure, creating a massive shockwave and killing all the hatchlings. The team barely manages to escape the explosion by jumping away from the blast just at the last second. When the dust eventually settles, they see that all the hatchlings have been destroyed. They think they have won the battle. However, before they can celebrate their victory, they hear a loud roar and watch with horror as Mama Godzilla emerges from the wreckage. It looks around and notices that its kids have been killed. It's angry. The people see this and run for their lives. Godzilla chases behind them. The team is luckily able to find a working vehicle, and Roach manages to start the car. They quickly drive away. However, Godzilla is not ready to give up. It keeps trying to destroy the car as the team barely manages to avoid it. Roach continues to drive as fast as he can, while Godzilla refuses to let them leave. Realizing that they cannot run from Godzilla forever, they head towards a nearby suspension bridge. Godzilla suddenly launches right in front of them and manages to bite into the car. It starts to lift the humans off the ground as it tries to crush them to death with its massive jaws. Luckily, Nick manages to use the electrical wires from the bridge to shock the creature, forcing it to release the vehicle finally. The team takes the chance and drives away as fast as they can. Godzilla continues chasing them, quickly destroying the entire bridge in the process. However, before Godzilla can catch up to them, it gets stuck inside the massive cables. The wires tie it up, and Nick calls for the military to attack right away. The fighter jets fly in and shoot missiles at the creature. The team makes it to the other side of the bridge. Godzilla gets shot multiple times and screams in agony. It eventually begins falling to the ground, smashing everything in its path. Nick approaches the fallen monster and watches it in sympathy as it succumbs to its wounds. The humans celebrate their victory against the monster. However, somewhere inside the wreck of the city, a single egg survived the bombs. From it, a baby Godzilla emerges and roars. Thank you so much for watching. Please like the video and subscribe for more.